I'm David Ben Moshe. With me is Chaim Ben Pesach. The president of Iran, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, came to America. You remember the movie Coming to America? Well, here the tyrant of Iran came to America. And not only did he speak at the UN, and he started the speech at the UN with a prayer to Allah. Can you imagine if some Christian country started a prayer started with a Christian prayer? How many would tolerate that? The ACLU would be all over them, even though this is a UN function. Well, anyway, he started with a prayer to Allah. And then he went on and he accused the West, and of course the major powers, of doing everything evil that Iran itself is doing. Now, we've said on many of our shows that we made a big mistake in attacking Iran, putting boots on the ground in Iraq, putting boots on the ground in Iraq. And one of the biggest parts of that mistake was we took that check on Iran away by removing Saddam Hussein. Iran feared Saddam Hussein because Saddam was nuts and attacked Iran once before using chemical weapons in an act of desperation because Iran is 3 times the size of Iraq. So we removed that check, and now Iran is flexing their muscles. And they're building a little bit of a navy. They're bringing in missiles. And, of course, they're seeking out nuclear weapons, which they will use. Unlike the Soviet Union, they are not afraid of mutually assured destruction. Iran is a Muslim nation, and Islam is a culture of death, which I just want to point out the opposite is true of Judaism, which is a culture of life. You heard of the song L'chaim, L'chaim, to life, L'chaim. Everything is life with Judaism, and everything is death with Islam. If you look up the word kill, you'll see it appears thousands of times in the Quran. And Mahmoud Ahmadinejad more than represents the Quran, more than represents Islam, and Muhammad would be proud of this man because he is suppressing his people. He is supporting the extremist, possible fundamentalist form of Islam. It's not a Marxist Islam, it's a pure religious Islam. And the Supreme Ayatollah in Iran must be very proud of him. He got rid of all the homosexuals. He got rid of many Christians. He's arrested Jews for being Jewish. And he's even arrested Iranian citizens from the United States who went back to visit their country and accused them of being spies. And then this man comes to the UN and he accuses the West of doing everything that he's doing in Iran. Chaim?
The Iranian regime had a war with the Iraqi regime in the 1980s. 2 million Muslims were killed by their fellow Muslims in that brutal war. They used poison gas against each other's citizens. They used poison gas against their own citizens. What happened? In other words, let's say Iraqi troops were in Iran in an Iranian village. The Iranians would use poison gas against the Iraqi soldiers. To kill the Iraqi soldiers would kill thousands of their own citizens because the Iraqi soldiers were occupying a part of Iran. So they'd be killing their own citizens with the poison gas just to get at some of the Iraqi soldiers. And vice versa. Saddam Hussein did the same thing in his country against his own citizens. Oh, yeah.
Can I just jump in here? Not only that, but when the tide started to turn against Iraq for a little bit, it actually ended up as a stalemate, but the tide started to turn against Iraq because Iran is 3 times the size of Iraq. Iraq laid mines down, and Iran, to get through the minefields, sent their children in first to blow up the mines and just see where the mines are. What rational people would do something like that?
Not only that, to take out some of the Iraqi artillery and make the Iraqis waste weaponry, they sent in 6- and 7-year-old Iranian boys, the Ayatollahs that are running Iran, sent in 6- and 7-year-old Muslim boys, thousands of them, charging into the Iraqi fire to get killed with Qurans in their hand. And thousands of them were killed and gunned down by the Iraqis in order to waste Iraqi artillery. I mean, this is the brutality, the wickedness of these vicious people. And again, this is Muslims against other Muslims. This is what they do to people who believe in the same religion that they believe in. Look at the brutality, the wickedness, the cruelty of these vicious people. And so they already committed a Holocaust. They murdered 2 million of their fellow Muslims in that evil, cruel, monstrous war that took place, that horrific war. They've murdered millions of their fellow Muslims. They committed a Holocaust against their own people. If this is what they do to their own people, do you think they're joking when the Iranian media promises to do this to America and to Israel? When they promise to murder millions of Christians or Jews with nuclear bombs, which is what they do promise in the Farsi media, which is what Ayatollahs have made speeches promising to do? When Ahmadinejad gives a speech saying that he envisions a world, that there's going to be a world where the United States doesn't exist anymore, where the United States has been destroyed, and Iran is going to see to it that the United States is destroyed, and then 2 minutes later starts speaking about Iran's nuclear program? I mean, come on. This is the same exact type of speech making that Hitler made, and people said Hitler shouldn't be taken seriously, and people said don't worry about Hitler, it's just all talk, it's for internal consumption, don't worry about it. This exact same type of mentality we're hearing today in regard to this monster. This is another Hitler, and the Muslims are all Nazis and Hitlers. Islam is a Nazi religion. Winston Churchill said that Islam is a Nazi religion. Winston Churchill called the Quran the evil book of Islam. He called it the Mein Kampf of war, comparing it to Mein Kampf, Hitler's autobiography. Hitler, in Mein Kampf, condemns Christianity, condemns Judaism, but praises Islam. The only religion that Hitler liked was Islam. And if you look at the Quran and you look at Hitler's writings, you see they're indistinguishable. Except one has a religious undercurrent to it, but the call for genocide, for mass murder, for brutality, for cruelty, for death, for destruction, for wickedness, the sadism, it's the same mentality. And I ask all of you, I'm not speaking to you Democrats out there, I'm not speaking to leftists, I'm not speaking you people. I mean, you can listen if you want, but I'm now going to address my remarks to Republicans and conservatives. All you bushies, you Republican and conservative jerk-offs. What the hell is George Wahhabi Bush doing about this threat? This maniac is building nuclear bombs, is murdering American soldiers on a daily basis in Iraq, is committing acts of international terrorism all over the world, and is building nuclear bombs which they promise to use to exterminate us. And which, if they had nuclear bombs, come on. We know they have dozens of Muslim terrorist organizations that Iran has been sponsoring. Chaim Ben Pesach is not the one saying this. Our own Pentagon, our own State Department, our own CIA, our own Senate Intelligence Committee, and House Intelligence Committee, and Senate Foreign Relations Committee have documented the dozens of Islamic murderous terrorist organizations that Iran is sponsoring. And they are capable of bringing those nuclear bombs into the United States and setting them off and murdering millions of Americans. Do you think we can guard all of our waterways, thousands and thousands of miles of our waterways? You could bring almost anything into this country. You think we can guard our borders? Millions of illiterate Mexicans are able to cross the border. You don't think well-trained terrorists are going to be able to get through? I mean, come on. And we're sitting and watching this? Why are we allowing American soldiers to be killed in Iraq, which doesn't have any weapons of mass destruction, while we're doing nothing to Iran, which is building nuclear bombs? We were against the war in Iraq and are still against that stupid, crazy war. Instead of invading Iraq, which never had weapons of mass destruction, and we're the only ones who said they never did. Why have we not taken the action that we in this organization have urged either America or Israel? Either one. Doesn't matter. Either one should take the action. The Air Force of the United States or the Air Force of Israel, without losing a single soldier, without losing a single pilot, from the air can destroy Iran's nuclear program. Why are we not doing this? Why are we exposing millions of innocent Americans or millions of innocent Israelis to the prospect of a nuclear holocaust? What is the reason for this? God forbid, I hope these videos don't become famous someday for the warnings we're giving on them. I hope and pray, I pray to God that something happens and that people wake up and that action is taken. There is only a military solution. That nuclear program must be destroyed. Join with us so that we can push to protect America and Israel before it's too late. Shalom.